Hello everyone, my name is Diana Tay. I'm speaking to you from my living room here in Singapore, a small island city-state located in Southeast Asia. When asked who I am and what I do, there are a few answers I can give. I will start off by saying I'm a mother of 5 beautiful children. That's right, 2 human kids, a girl, Athena, and a boy, Matthias, both in their teens, 3 4-legged animals comprising of a rescue dog, Maxie, adopted when he was a puppy back in 2015, and 2 horses, Morena, a 19-year-old ex-polo pony, and Winnie, a 9-year-old Dutch warm-blood dressage horse. I'm married to Edmund, whom I'm proud to say is an accomplished litigation lawyer and is a managing partner to the 3rd oldest law firm in Singapore. He has been described within the legal circle as aggressive, good strategist, good advocate. I like to think that I'm better than him, unless it's because he lets me win our arguments all the time. I myself have been a lawyer almost my entire career life, spanning across 20-odd years. I've been chief counsel, regional head of legal, general counsel, whatever titles you can think of to describe a legal pit bull in the financial services sector, ranging from private equity to the traditional asset management industry to professional services and consulting industry for the Asia-Pacific region in the last 13 years. My journey to where I am now actually comprised many twists and turns. In fact, for me to become a lawyer was in itself quite unexpected as well. When I was growing up, I was an extremely shy person. Yes, all my friends listening in right now would find it hard to believe. My parents were migrants from Indonesia who chose to settle in Singapore. I was born in Singapore, and right up to the age of 7 years old, the only language I was speaking at home was Bahasa Indonesia. So you can imagine how traumatic an experience it was for me when I went to primary school and could not understand a word my friends were saying. I did get often teased at, and because of my poor grasp of the languages used, whether or not it was English or Mandarin, often caught myself being lost for words. I grew up reading lots of books. Even till this day, I would much prefer spending my whole afternoon in a bookshop than in a shopping mall shopping for clothes. I remember loving to write stories when I was young, and so I thought I would grow up to be an author. But subconsciously, I must have made up my mind that in order to be able to defend myself from all that teasing, I must become a lawyer. Even my parents were surprised. Yes, I was going to be the first lawyer in the family's history. Still, I knew that because I never enjoyed debating or standing in front of a crowd speaking, I was going to start my legal career as a corporate lawyer where I would be drafting documents instead of standing up in court to cross-examine a witness. And guess what? I started out as a litigation lawyer. I had graduated during the Asian financial crisis back in 1997, and clearly there were no corporate deals to be made in such an economic climate. Yet there were definitely enough insolvency and bankruptcy cases to go around amongst junior lawyers. It was good training. I had to steel myself, learn the art of putting on a brave front, even though the stomach felt like a million butterflies, and stuck it out for a respectable 5.5 years. Yes, I still could not bring myself to be that aggressive lawyer, tearing my opponents into pieces, and ended up earning the nickname of being a smiling assassin. I eventually managed to find my way to where I wanted to be, which was to be a corporate and commercial lawyer. And I landed in my first in-house role in June 2007. It was a private equity fund manager, and at its peak had won several awards as the best event-driven fund in Asia from Asia Investor and Eureka Hedge. And I joined them at a time where there was a general euphoria in the market. Then there was yet another twist to my professional degree when the global financial crisis hit the world markets in 2008. Yes, that's the second major financial crisis that I would have experienced in my professional career. I was thrown right into the deep end, and when I had to orchestrate a massive restructuring of the fund following investors wanting to pull out of the fund. Term sheets had to be negotiated. I was working with external lawyers who, of course, did not have a precedent for documentation to deal with such a crisis. We managed to secure 95% approval from investors for capital lockup, so that's a good outcome. Fast forward to Aon, which was the last organization that I had worked in, hired as a chief counsel for the region, looking after the retirement and investment practice, as well as the human capital consulting business. I was occupying this position for 5.5 years when something unexpected happened, that my role as chief counsel was made redundant. It was as a result of a decision made to run the legal department as a shared service function. Now, I would be lying if I said that that decision did not affect me emotionally. Of course, it was a setback to me at the time, especially when your profession, your job, even your job title has become a definition of who you are in life. But what was wonderful about the whole experience is that when you have good leaders as your colleagues and who believed in you, and when you yourself want something real bad, like staying in an organization because you felt that there was still unfinished business, all you had to do was to ask. The worst possible outcome for me would be, no, we do not have a role for you here. Whether it was due to my persistence or my inherent nature as the problem solver or the connector or the business enabler, beyond just being that legal counsel managing legal risk, many senior business leaders continued to be supportive. And within 10 days of being told that my role was chief counsel had been made redundant, I was appointed into a newly created role as Director of Business Operations and Strategy for the region, supporting 2 solution lines for Aon. Well, that unfinished business was done, and I left the role in May this year. 3 short stories on where I have come to professionally, which incidentally covered 2 of the financial crises, but it just tells you how life is always throwing curveballs at you. It is then about how you then react to those curveballs. I was once asked in a published interview by Thomson Reuters to share how I got to where I was at the time, the regional head of legal for an asset management firm. I decided to search for a quote or a phrase that could capture my core values succinctly, a mantra that I could live by. And I found a very apt quote by Robin Sharma, a globally celebrated author of books on leadership, and who incidentally was a former litigation lawyer. And he said this: above all else, be significant. Make your life matter, be of use, and be of service to as many people as possible. One has to reflect on what sort of impact you want on people's lives. How do you want to be remembered? And that goes beyond your job. When I started out my career, I thought the most impactful way I could make a difference would be to become a great lawyer, one who has deep knowledge on the law. I started speaking at industry conferences, sharing my technical experiences as a legal counsel within the financial services sector. But people started being more interested in my success stories. And I often struggled to define the word success because I find that word success could mean differently to different people. But the stories that I often share resonated with the women in the audience. And throughout my career, I've never really thought that being a female was a stumbling block or a hindrance to my career progression. Yet, there has been so much discussion around gender diversity and how there are not enough women in management positions. There are even discussions around imposing a quota to ensure sufficient women get appointed to sit on boards. I personally do not believe having a quota is a good idea. In fact, I think it is almost insulting to think that I might have been appointed into a senior position not based on my merit, but because of the need to fulfill some quota. So, on the other hand, I also realized that as females, we are our worst enemies. We judge ourselves too harshly to the extent that we think we're not good enough for that top job. Coupled with the fact that if you're an Asian woman working in an environment which could be hierarchical or patriarchal in nature, it could almost become a paralyzing effect not wanting to progress upwards. Now, I'm not saying every career woman must aim for that big job to be labeled as successful. In fact, quite the contrary. Success should be defined by you alone and not by others. If you decide to be a stay-at-home mom, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you want to be that hard-nosed career woman sitting on boards, There is also nothing wrong with that. But the main thing is that in whatever you do, it's about making a positive impact in other people's lives. So live your life with a sense of purpose. As I shared my life mantra at the start, be significant, make your life matter. COVID has affected all of us in so many negative ways. If you are the unlucky one and had contracted the virus, your health will be impacted. I see it almost like playing Russian roulette. You could either suffer very badly, which could even lead to death, or you could be asymptomatic and carry on your daily lives without even realizing that you've had the virus, but was unfortunate enough to pass it on to others. Thankfully, none of my family or friends that I know have contracted it. Yet this virus has affected all of us socially, economically, and to a degree, mentally as well. In Singapore, we had a lockdown, what the government had called a circuit breaker period for 2 months, whereby we were not allowed to have gatherings, not allowed to have visitors in our houses, minimize going out of the house apart from running essential errands like grocery shopping. My kids' education changed dramatically when all their classes went fully online. It was stressful for them, not just because they could not see or hang out with their classmates, but worse still, they're both in graduating classes this year. One's going to be taking his primary school leaving exams, another one's taking her O-levels. My husband had to conduct his court hearings online as well, and you can imagine as a litigation lawyer with lots of court papers to handle and not having the full access to the complete infrastructure that an office would provide, one has to work doubly hard for that same amount of output. Now, as for me, I had left a job right at the time thinking that I should be able to find another one pretty easily. And of course, that was not going to be the case with the economic environment looking the way it is, with no sense of certainty as to when travel could resume or when a vaccine would be found. In fact, I was probably one of the lucky ones who managed to get out receiving a generous exit package just before the full extent of the virus hit home, causing Aon to announce a 20% pay reduction affecting 70% of its employees globally, and with its board of directors taking a 50% pay cut in order to keep jobs intact. At a personal level, the shutdown had prevented me from riding my horses for almost 2 months. For a person who does not have much experience with horses, horses are sensitive creatures. They need to get off their boxes to be exercised, and of course their feelings too. And when they don't see their regular carer coming every day to ride them or to give them carrots and apples, they start having separation anxiety. And all these contributing factors lead to horses getting colic. During the lockdown, both my horses did suffer from colic. Now, to a human being, it's simply a stomachache, but for a horse, it could be fatal. And one of my horses had to go through an emergency operation because she started feeling discomfort in her tummy and she started rolling and her large intestine basically got twisted. Now, I don't mean to be graphic here, but it's like having a water hose being twisted and the gas and waste can no longer pass through. Her intestine had ballooned to such a size that if it exploded inside her, she would have died. Now, we were very, very lucky that we had her stable near the only equine hospital in Singapore, and that saved her life. Is it anyone's fault that this happened? Well, you could say nobody wanted COVID-19 to happen, but it is about how you react to such a crisis because each one of us have suffered in our unique ways. Nobody's suffering is bigger or smaller than the next person. For my family and close friends, we made the extra effort to continue staying in touch even more regularly. I mean, I probably have more video calls stay connected as compared to previously when I would just send a quick text. In fact, I didn't even think that it was even possible to have virtual drinks, let alone have so much fun doing it. But I've had a number of video calls with a glass of wine in hand and just having a relaxing time, catching up with friends over the day's events. And my dear colleagues even threw a farewell drinks party for me in my last week at Aon via WebEx. Yes, COVID-19 has certainly derailed our normal routine, but it has also forced us to rethink where our priorities lie, test our resilience, and to be adaptable to change to face a new norm. I guess you could call it a much needed circuit breaker to our busy lives. I believe the future holds so many opportunities for me, which the current crisis has given me the time to think about and explore. I had talked about living with purpose, the sort of impact you want to be on other people's lives, and how to stay relevant. Let me start with how to stay relevant. When I was at Aon, we would talk to our clients about digital disruption and how it will impact the future of work, and how you can either let technology displace the workforce or be a business enabler. This was even before COVID-19 struck. With the crisis, it has forced even the technologically challenged laggards to look at ways and means to continue their work from home. There's been a great push to use new technologies such as AI, blockchain, to help us be more efficient, more productive, more accurate. Business transactions are being conducted online, IT infrastructures and security systems are being tested. Unlikely partners are coming together to explore ways and means to collaborate with one another to build digital partnerships and ecosystems. Companies should be taking this opportunity to relook at their business strategies and to see how they should embark upon a digital transformation journey. The crisis has presented all these opportunities to be tested for viability. Of course, for me, in my capacity as a legal professional, where the law has not necessarily caught up with such modern technology, it is a time for me to acquire the necessary knowledge, the skills, to be at the forefront in these areas, to think about how risk management can be performed so that these opportunities are explored in a safe environment. And no one is ever too old to go back to university. Since the crisis hit, I've attended and earned certifications dealing with legal tech, reg tech, and am now actually embarking on an online executive management program in India on leading in a transforming world. I have to thank the crisis for giving me the time to go back to school, because I know all the knowledge that I will earn during this period and the network that I have gained interacting with the course participants will be invaluable for my next role, whether in the financial services sector or in the professional services consulting sector, or in fact any sector which may be going through a digital transformation journey in order to stay in business and be relevant. I also talked about living with a purpose and to be impactful in other people's lives. I've already been sharing various personal stories at conferences such as Women Leadership Summit on gender diversity at workplaces, or how to be resilient in times of crisis. I'm deeply grateful to my alma mater, London Business School, where I had earned an MBA, for asking me to be a mentor in their mentorship program to the alumni, as well as to be an adjunct professor to teach the careers module in their undergraduates program. I had also shared the story about the impact to my forces during the lockdown period. And one thing that has caused me to think deeply is how I could bring horse riding to the masses. I started horse riding only in my adulthood, and in the span of 8 years, the hobby has become a passion, which led me to gaining personal achievement when I represented my country, Singapore, in the 2017 Southeast Asian Games in endurance riding. I became very active in promoting the sport. I sit on the Expo for the Equestrian Federation of Singapore, and I even started a business 3 years ago with my former coach to provide equestrian management services. Because I know the benefits that horse riding has on the mental well-being of a human being. It is through horse riding which helped me take things easy. Horses are so in tune with your feelings, especially when you're on their backs. They are great coaches in mindfulness. I want to dispel the perception that horse riding is only for the rich or that it is an elitist sport. I think it would be a huge shame if we all go back to our old ways, because that just means that we have not learned any lessons from the crisis that we are currently undergoing today. Of course, everything has changed. The world having to think of safe ways to open up the borders, countries having to restart the economies, jobs being lost overnight, and various sectors such as aviation and tourism being completely wiped out, and healthcare systems still struggling to ensure the sick numbers do not outweigh the infrastructures available to help them get better. Yet at the same time, we see that our natural environment is given the chance to breathe again. We see innovation in technologies being accelerated just so that our lives could be improved. I come from a generation where we have seen so much change. Just take, for example, the way we communicate. When I was growing up, the telephone was an analog phone with a rotating dial. Now we're not just talking about having a cordless phone in our homes or mobile phones in our pockets. We're talking about making video calls over Wi-Fi on the various platforms like Zoom, Google Meets, WebEx, what have you, or simply communicating over social media with each other. I see change as progress, and progress is good for humankind. This pandemic has forced us to hit the pause button. It has forced us to recalibrate, to rethink about what matters most in our lives. I came across a quote where Winston Churchill once said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." He apparently said it towards the end of World War II. And a former advisor to Barack Obama said something similar after the GFC, saying, "You never let a serious crisis go to waste." And what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things you think you could not do before. I think that is sound advice which is worth reflecting upon.